We all know who's really in charge around here, so. All right, I'll call to order the August 29th Public Works meeting. Can I get a roll call?
Chairman Waggy.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderman Erger is absent, yes. So we have 3 of 4 members are present, and we have a quorum represented.
Great, thank you. Move on to agenda approval. Any changes? Seeing none, we'll approve by acclamation. Moving the citizen comment. If anybody has any comments for the board, you're welcome to give them to us now.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Joel, Joel Cruz, Kruse. I am not a resident of Brentwood. I'm a resident of Manchester, Missouri here, about 20 minutes away. But I am a member of the Brentwood Hockey League, have been for 20 years, going on 20 years. And we've been in contact with Bola, with Brad, with Eric, trying to understand the whole situation of what is happening to the Brentwood Hockey League. And what we had found out was the ice time was sold to a company called Hockey North America. And at that time, we figured, well, then what's happening to the BHL? Said, your season ends. So the BHL is no longer existing in Brentwood, which was upsetting to me, upsetting to everyone, because we weren't given an opportunity to speak or to say, hey, we'll buy the ice time. If it's a matter of cost or staffing referees or staffing someone that runs the time clock, we can take care of all that. That option was not provided to us. So that's where this sort of came to fruition between us, the rest of the BHL players, most of the captains, to contact everyone from the Parks and Rec to figure out what options do we have? What can we do as far as keeping the BHL in Brentwood, because it is an institution. You have a loyal following from Thursdays and Sundays. We play for, 20 plus years. Some of these guys have been playing for a lot longer than that. And the Brentwood League has been in place for 40 plus years, as far as I know. So it would just be very sad, very unfortunate for the people who are loyal to Brentwood, who go to the restaurants, the local gas stations. The people of H&A usually play different leagues or different ice times, different rinks, different teams every week. They're not necessarily Brentwood folks, the people who are loyal to Brentwood. So that's where I feel like the decision may have been not as well thought out as what it could have been to give us an opportunity to keep the BHL here in Brentwood.
Okay, thanks, Joel.
So, thank you.
My name is Patrick Roy, just like it sounds. Last name is spelled R-O-Y. And I am also not a resident of Brentwood. I live across the river in Illinois, in Lebanon, Illinois. It's about a 40-minute drive. I have been a participant in the Brentwood League easily 25 years, both in the Advanced League and in the Intermediate League. Currently in the Intermediate on Sunday. When I make my travel over here on Sunday, the gas station right down the road here, I'm stopping to fill my tank up. I'm sure it's no secret gas prices being a little different on this side of the river in Illinois. I try and take advantage of it. The restaurant down the road, O.B. Clark's, I frequent that. There are other businesses, a Panera company, depending on what time. Sometimes the games were at, in the middle of the day. Point I'm trying to make is that I regularly spend money outside of just the team fees. I'm the captain of one of the teams on Sunday. So I am spending money locally, even though I'm not a resident of Brentwood. Just kind of to tack on to what Joel said, more or less just kind of in a little bewilderment as to what took place, why the decision was made. There was no notice. The captains kind of got grumblings of rumors. We had a preseason meeting prior to the summer session starting. One of the employees of the rink were present, the current person that was running the league at the time. And the captains and I asked the question, hey, we're hearing rumors about the Brentwood League going away. What's going on with it? The answers were, We don't know. There's no rumor, there's no truth to it. The fall session will be starting as it is supposed to be. As the summer session was going on, and that person, I found out through the wayside that that person was no longer employed. I reached out directly in an email to Brad Barbeau, and I asked the question again. I said, hey, I'm hearing rumors about the Brentwood League going away. This was in July. The answer that I got in email form was, there's no truth to those rumors. As the summer session kind of started wearing down, it got close. We always get an email from the rink saying the details for the next session so that I can distribute it to my players and kind of start collecting money and things like that. I asked the question of when the information is going to come out for the fall session, again in an email. Brad replied in an email to me, the email will come out next week. The deadline for the fall session is going to be the end of August, and then they're going to open it up to whoever. Usually on Sundays there had been a pretty healthy wait list for teams to get in. I'm aware of multiple teams that, for whatever reason, didn't get the registration turned in on time, didn't get the payment turned in on time, and their spot was given to another team that wanted to get in. The very next morning after I got that response from Brad, all the captains got an email saying that the league was no longer. And so, personally, I'm just kind of confused as to why any of that would have ever taken place. I became aware after the fact that Brad had been in contact with an admin from HNA as far back as in May. So, I guess I'm just kind of confused as to why, if there wasn't going to be a league, why I was being led differently, and the rest of the captains. It's unfortunate. I've been loyal to this rink. I very much enjoy it. My players, I'm here to represent them. They build basically their lives around Sunday hockey. One of the reasons why my teammates are not here is because I'm the oldest one on the team. My kids are grown. Every single one of the other guys on my team have kids. Some of them are at Hamilton tonight. Some of them are, kids' activities and et cetera. So playing on a different night really is not an option. They build their lives around playing Sunday hockey. I was also told through the grapevine that the decision to sell the ice to HNA was based off of competition from other rinks and declining interest in Brentwood. I can speak to both of those on personal knowledge. The rink in Centene has increased their pricing. They're having financial issues paying off their debtors. And so the ice time has increased pretty substantially. I kind of felt when I heard that not only was that probably not the case, but Brentwood rink would probably stand to gain teams from teams looking to, exit basically the higher prices. As far as the declining interest, this past summer, not this summer, but this past summer, there was one fewer team than there is this summer. We've actually grown since last summer on Sunday. I can't speak to the advanced league. I don't play in it personally. I see the scores are all put on the same page, and on first blush, just looking at it, I would say at the very least the teams are the same. They're not. They definitely haven't declined. So I'm again in bewilderment as to this decline in interest. I am aware that there used to be a Friday league and a Tuesday league. Those went by the wayside a long time ago. We've been playing with Thursday and Sunday for the past several years. So that's my contribution. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Patrick.
How you guys doing? My name's Josh Dayton. I was a resident of Brentwood until recently. You moved to U-City, but here to just voice concerns in the same way. I guess that's just great recap by those guys. But I think the biggest thing to me is that I've played for 12 years now. This league has been provided by Brentwood Parks and Recreation as a league of putting together a municipal type league, right? That was the service that was provided, that was taken advantage of. I have great friends on this team, lifelong friends that are part of this. And out of nowhere, that league and that setup was sold to a private company out of Virginia. I can't understand how that transpired without anyone locally having any say in how that was going to happen, or at least a kickback, right? I mean, if it was a matter of cost, we could have talked about that. The cost that we're being told if we were to go to H&A, which all of the teams, everyone, not one person has said that they would go play H&A in that league. It's going from about $140 to about $600 a session with that new league. We can't afford that, right? So that's all I really had. It's obviously a very frustrating thing for all of us to just be completely caught off guard with no ability to chime in at all. But I guess that's why we're here tonight to talk about it too. So that's all I got. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, thank you, Josh. Anyone else? So can I ask just a clarifying question, and I don't know who wants to answer it, but like what? So Josh, you mentioned the price increase. What else changes?
So it's actually a big thing of like, it won't just be, sorry. It won't just be at Brentwood. So it would also be around St. Louis, right? And so Patrick noted this as well, that it's a big deal that for guys, we have a set times on Thursday. It's easy to plan our lives around a set time. This new league, we would be transferred to, we would go play at Centene, we'd play it in Pacific potentially on a Tuesday. I mean, I have a job, I travel for work, I can't just, next week, we would be forfeiting games, like, right? Yeah, and there's another big thing is Thursday nights of the Advanced League, the level of hockey that will be H&A, it's below that level, right? So there is no Advanced League for that. So that's why Thursday is not really, it doesn't really line up with the goals and what they're doing at this new league, right? So that's one of our major concerns as well, is if we go to that league, it's a really competitive type league for us.
So the structure with Brentwood League is, the costs have been about $2,300 per team per session. The session is a 10-week, 10 game with playoffs at the end of the summer, and then fall and spring, there's a combined playoffs. So basically you have 20 games and then a combined playoffs for $4,600. The whole structure of H&A is it's around $9,000. You get 20 games. However, what you're paying for is salaries of the administrators, you're paying for travel fees. There's an end of season tournament in Toronto that every single team pays for the ice for. There's only 2 teams, the top 2 teams that win a particular division, that are invited to go to Toronto. So all the rest of the teams, you're basically stockpiling money towards admin fees, salaries, travel costs, and this ice that you may or may not even be able to get to use. As he just said, the current setup for H&A hockey is they don't have divisions that host the skill level for either Sunday or the Advanced Thursday League. It's more geared towards novice and beginner skaters.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments or responses? All right, thank you. We'll move into reports of the committee chair. I have no report. Alderwoman Parker-Tice?
No report.
Alderman Gould?
No report.
Move into department reports. Go to Public Works.
So, have a mixture of different projects here, and we'll go through them, and you can ask me any questions. The first one, Russell Avenue STP, the Deer Creek Connector. Gersonson's got most of the foundation work done. They're still working on the signals. One of the signal pieces won't come in until October, so that's what's taking a little bit longer. But they do continue to work on the curb gutter, pavement, stuff like that over at the Metro North entrance. The slope issues at 8829 Russell, that's later on in the agenda, but there is a change order for discussion with that. And then switching gears to the FEMA capital, the street sweepers due the week of September 9th is what they tell us. So we'll be taking delivery of that soon. Yes. And then the roof replacement, they think probably end of September, early October. So that's been pushed back for various reasons, weather and things like that. But we'll still get it done this year. 2818 Breckenridge Industrial, that's the former Bowser House. So the demolition contractor has his abatement contractor in there right now, so they're removing asbestos. I helped him fill out a permit. The permits have gone to Webster Groves. Well, a portion of it has, not the whole thing. So whenever the asbestos is fully removed, there's another letter that goes to them. But county's already aware of it. County gave us permission to do the abatement. We're hoping that's probably the week of September 9th as well for the demolition. We'll keep everyone posted. McKnight Road, since the last meeting, Gershenson repaved northbound McKnight from Litzinger to York. I don't know if there's any issues on that. The only thing we noticed was there was some rutting near the blinking stop sign. I don't think they've come out to do it yet, but they're scheduled to do it as part of warranty work, is just mill that out again and replace it so it's smooth again. They think maybe when it was warm, like a big truck or something would have hit the brakes too hard and it would have caused it to kind of rut. So that'll be taken care of.
Can I ask a question about
yeah.
that? So I noticed that actually for the first time today, so it was almost like it wasn't so much rutting, but it was like, I mean, maybe I
Yeah,
don't
kind of
know.
like sloughed, like
Yeah,
where,
but then I guess, so it's a little south of the intersection.
yes.
Okay, then that's the same.
It is, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because we noticed it too. It's like, well, that's weird. It's like super smooth from like Litzinger going, past Sonora and Pine and all those other side streets. But then when you got right there, it's just a little rough area.
Yeah, okay, great.
Pointed it out and they said, oh yeah, we'll take care of it.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Over on Lewis, the property owner met with us yesterday. She has 4 quotes to do her sewer lateral repair. MSD has to do a repair inside their pipe. And then once both those repairs are done, we'll fix the street because there's still that sinkhole just north of Circle K on Lewis. 2217 Park Ridge, I just put that in there because we're still waiting on MSD to approve the bid package. They did comments to Gonzalez. Gonzalez sent those back, fixed the plans. Now we're just kind of in a holding pattern waiting for them to release it and tell us that we have the permit. And then once we do, we can advertise and get construction going. Missouri American, I just mentioned that since they're still working, in case anybody asks you, they still have months of work left in these neighborhoods, which would be Florence, Dorothy, Covington, Radley. I know they've installed a big chunk along Mary because I've seen them flushing it, so I know they're getting somewhere. Hopefully by end of this year they'll be done. They may have to come back in spring to do any seed, straw, stuff like that. 2832 Manderley. So that's that skinny little retaining wall that's in between 2 properties, basically from Manderley over to Hilldale. So at the time I wrote this, I didn't receive any quotes. I do have a quote. I reached out to Sourcewell just because we've used them on different projects. They're supposed to submit something as well. And then I had one more contractor I submitted to him because we've done work in the past. So it's expensive. The one that I have, hopefully it'll come down from there, but it was getting close to 6 figures, and that's way high to do. It's difficult though. That's the main reason why it's expensive, because you only have about 10 feet of working space between 2 properties and they're at totally different elevations. And they would recommend removal of the old and put in new. The one I asked today, I said, well, could you put in some sort of pile or something and encapsulate what's there so you don't have so much to remove? And maybe that would be a better solution. Because they're a design build contractor, and I thought, well, maybe they can think outside the box. So hopefully we'll have something here pretty soon on that one so that we can bring it back and figure out if you wanted to put it in the 25 capital. I know it won't work with 24. The last thing that isn't on here, but it came about at Coffee with the Mayor, was mosquito fogging. So someone had asked the question, would we fog for Brentwood days, like before the event, Brentwood Sports Complex? I did look at, in the past, when it was brought to the board, we did fogging for the adulticide, the fogging itself. Do it because I reached out to them after the meeting. They would be cheaper than we would be because he said we've already got a contract with them for vector control services. So like they baited sewer inlets for rats in 2021, 2023. If there's an outbreak of West Nile, they'll help fog the city. There's a fee for that, but the fee would only be $102 an hour if we had them fog Brentwood Sports Complex. It wouldn't take long. So I guess the question becomes, would you want to do it or just not do it? We haven't done it in the past for Brentwood days, but there's been concerns.
Other than the one person at Coffee at the Mayor, have you heard other concerns?
I have one phone call I have to call back. The person lived in Brentwood Forest and noticed that we weren't fogging, which maybe they were new. I don't know. I mean, we haven't done it in years.
6 years.
Yeah. I just know we haven't done it, and do we want to unwind what we've done?
Well, I'll just interject that with the East Coast scare with the mosquito thing, that may be bringing mosquito issues to the forefront, but we haven't had any of that here.
Yeah, I don't know that it's, I don't know that it's a high priority for, because if you're just doing one spot, I don't know how effective that's really gonna be. And then you're,
Right.
if you're not doing a comprehensive throughout the neighborhood, then it seems like a localized spray may or may not be effective, and
Yeah, we would just need to tell them the route. If you wanted to do the parade route, you could do that like the Friday before the
that just
Saturday, but I
seems-
don't know how effective it
No.
is.
yeah, it's not when a whole lot of mosquitoes are out for the parade, and then,
Right, I figure, well, you're probably better off just wearing your own protection, if you're comfortable
Yeah.
with wearing something with DEET or cutter or whatever. It's,
I'm not hearing an appetite from the board for fogging.
I don't think so.
I figure we'd bring it up.
Thank you.
It was asked.
Any other questions for Dan? All right, thanks, Dan.
Cool, thanks.
All right, Parks and Rec?
All right. Good evening. Craig Schlitter with Navigate Solutions. So I have been asked to provide a rough order of magnitude cost opinion for a potential beer garden. And the objective of this presentation is to make the Public Works Committee and Board of Aldermen aware of the potential costs with the beer garden to allow them to make decision on next steps. So we had a very limited scope, roughly 30 days, to meet with staff, learn what their expectations of this potential beer garden facility is, work with Jacobs Engineering, who is the city's engineer on the flood mitigation project, to understand what limitations there were with putting a facility like this in Brentwood Park, and then to provide a conceptual cost opinion and a total program budget. And I bring this up because we've only been working on this for 30 days. It's a very limited effort, so you may have all these questions, and unfortunately, I may not have answers for that because really the objective of this is to tell you what it is, and maybe you decide to pursue it, maybe you don't, but at least this gives you more information than you had before this presentation. So we did meet with staff and learned just high level what they were looking for. So just to give you a basis of where we're at, so this is the event lawn, comfort station building, this is the event lawn, this is the new playground. So next to the MSD structure, there's this potential beer garden location. This orange building is a potential 2,400 square foot building. This was mirrored after the size at Frankie Martin's. Uh-oh, what happened? ClickShare's acting up. Okay. And then staff is interested in having a stage and a 26-foot LED screen. I'll show you photos of all of this in upcoming slides, and a large seating area. So this was mirrored after a project in Cottoville. The park is called Frankie Martin's. Don't know if you've been out there, but this was a good basis of hearing what they're looking for, and then looking at this park that's actually built. It's very popular, being able to touch and feel it. So that way we could come up with some ideas of the concept and also figure out what things would cost based on this, because there is no architect or any designer on this. So we need to have some basis to prepare the cost opinion. So this building is what was priced. It's a brick building with metal, a roof. Again, if you guys want to pursue this, we'd hire an architect, and that architect would mirror this to go along with the event lawn comfort station building, so it all aligns with the architecture down there. But this size of building, single story building, and the building would be gray boxed. And what that means is the whole outside looks complete. It's got brick, it's got roof, but when you go inside, it would just have metal studs and no mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. And the reason why is it's the idea to bring a tenant in there, like Rockwell Brewery or some other brewery, and then you don't want to put all the MEP systems in, drywall the walls because a tenant will want to change things up for their operations. So Brentwood would be a landlord in this setup, and ultimately we would want to build a building that a tenant could go in there and then ultimately do a fit out to make it work for their operations. This is the bottom two right photos are the pictures of the stage and the 26-foot screen. So the night I went out there, there's a one-man band playing down below, and then they've got sporting events up above. I mean, it's really a spectacular experience. They used turf and seating areas. Because we are close to the creek, we put in the concrete paving, which is more like this Francis Park example. That's another example where there's a nice beer garden that's in a park. So we then put to scale what this concept could look like. Again, these are just boxes at this point. All this could be changed if you guys wanted to pursue this further. But essentially, we have a building. We started with 2,400 square feet, but then we decided that there would need to be some bathrooms there, just by the nature of the amount of people that could be sitting there, walking across the event lawn building, walking across the event lawn to the event lawn building bathrooms on peak nights where there's the event lawn's being used, the beer garden's being used, may not be desirable. But again, if you guys decide you don't want bathrooms in this, that's easy to remove. But right now, this building does have 2 bathrooms. The stage is in the blue box, and then we have the big paving and seating area, that's the gray area. Again, all these boxes can move around, the size can change. This is just something that we put together so we could ultimately price something. This is it zoomed in. Next, we had to talk with Jacobs Engineering just to make sure we so we could understand what the limitations are. So right now, the current regulatory flood elevation is 454. So that means any structures have to be at elevation 455 or higher. Most of the elevations down there range from 448 is the lowest point, which is at one corner of the actual facility. But most of them, as you can see, are at 451 and 452. So if you built it right now, you'd have to raise that whole area up, which is not ideal. So our recommendation is to wait for the LOMAR to go into effect. That's a letter of map revision that we're hoping will be put into place by the end of the year. And what that'll do is that'll lower that flood elevation to 450. So then you would have to build 1 foot over that flood elevation, which would be 451. And because of the elevations we have down there, we'd have minor fill to put in, minor grading, thus reducing costs. So again, that's why the recommendation is to wait until LOMAR is in place. Also, if the LOMAR goes in place by this year, just by the nature of the schedule of hiring a design team and design it, you couldn't build it any faster anyway, but that's just something we want to keep track of. When the LOMAR goes into place, this map on the bottom right shows how the floodplain will be changed. The only thing that's important to note here is underneath this blue is some hashed lines, and that's the floodway. So if the beer garden, if the paved area where the seating area goes down into that space, we would need a no-rise permit. Not the end of the world, but that's just something that if we could keep it just north a little bit, it could reduce some costs. But again, getting a no-rise is doable, but that's just something we'll have to pay attention to if this project is pursued. So the total program budget, right now the construction cost is close to 1.8 million. The soft costs are at 500,000. We have a high contingency. When you do an estimate this early with no design, really limited direction, you have a 20% contingency. So that's 425,000. The grand total is 2.7 million. And then we did some breakouts because you could do this in phases. The building and the infrastructure for the building is 1.5 million. The site and the paving areas close to 500,000, and the stage, AV, and LED screen is 725,000. So that stage and LED screen, all the sound system that goes with that is expensive. So if you wanted to do parts and pieces, you could do the paving, the building, you could do the stage later, because that is a big chunk of money, or however you wanted to slice this. There are options, but this is the cost opinion at this point. So if you decided to pursue this, in September, we could come on board if you all wanted, help you with the architect procurement, which would take a couple months. The design permitting would go out until May. We'd bid it in June. We could have it all built by end of December 2025. So it's a 16-month schedule if you wanted to pursue this. That's it.
Questions? Comments?
I'll start. Everything looks great when you look at it as a one-off. Where would the money come from? Actually, I should look over here. I mean,
We don't have it.
we don't have money for such a thing, yeah. So, I see our,
If this is something we want to do, we'd have to look at a couple things. Excuse me. One, we build it into the department's capital improvement plan and see where it ranks up against everything else. And obviously, we're waiting for the final master plan to come in too, so then all the new projects will get all ranked together with everything else that will not be in that master plan. And then secondarily, you'd have to look at other sort of more creative options, lease agreements with different vendors. Is there, a way to talk to them about construction up front? So there's lots of things we could do. The first question, is there an appetite to do it? And then is there, ways to be flexible? Do we want to see a proof of concept if we have a vendor who can put down their own building, a container or something like that, run that for a season? We let them run that for 2 or 3 seasons. What we build up in that lease goes to the building of a more permanent structure. Again, there's lots of things we could do beyond just putting it in the capital budget and then paying for it all at once.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about whether or not it's a good idea in this space. I don't know that I like the idea of pavers and paving a section that is, I mean, that just seems like we're putting a lot of structure in a place right next to the creek. The entire thing was done for flood mitigation purposes. I wouldn't want to unnecessarily add to that. I don't think that there's while it could be exciting to have something like this, what differs to me than the Frankie Martin, is it what it's called? And even the beer garden you see down at, not Tower Grove, Francis Park. Those are fairly accessible. I mean, the one in Cottleville is right off the main drag. There's a ton of activity, and I think a lot of people that go there, when I've driven through there, they're parking all up and down the street, and they're walking in from the main drag. There's not a real easy way to get to this other than the one parking lot that we have and the new temporary lots we have. There's a reason there's a lot of people that go to those because you can see them. There's a lot of activity. Placed here, I'd actually rather see this closer to Manchester and accessible from Manchester, and having the same proximity to the park. So I don't think that for me, there's not an appetite to do this right now. I don't think there's any immediacy that says, hey, we've got to build something like this right away. I think there's a lot of factors that we've got to see play out in order to determine whether or not this would be a good use of taxpayer funds and whether or not we'd want to structure something where we become the landlord for something like this. If it became a completely private build out and there were some studies that another a partner would be willing to do to have proof of concept, maybe that would be different, but I don't know that the city needs to take this on right now. So that's all I have.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I mean, this started because we got an unsolicited solicitation for somebody to put their own containerized beer garden in or something, right? And, I feel like we have the ability to do basically all the same programming that we could do with this space with the event lawn and the event pavilion. We have movie night, we have food trucks, we have, beer trucks, we have all kinds of stuff show up there. And, maybe that's a way to start building that demand and start learning what it is. And then if it gets like that's so crowded, then we know more of what we could do in going forward. I agree, there's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, so my recommendation would be to table it until we start seeing, one, we go through the budget process, we see what the results of the master plan are, so we know what the priorities are there, and then see how things play out with any other, potential development that might happen or may not happen, I don't know.
Plus Lomer.
Plus the Lomer,
So,
yeah. There's a lot of
ginormous
factors
question mark.
that need to fall into place.
Yeah. All right, we all good with that? All right, thanks, Craig. It's good data to have, though.
So just a few other things. The first is, last week, we met with a representative from Placer AI. And if you don't know who they are, they're a location analytics platform. And obviously, they're trying to get into the city and see if the city's interested in a lot of data and things like that. And so I was the guinea pig for them. And so what I asked them to do is put something together on Brentwood Park, because we've been asking for, we've been wanting to see Brentwood Park data. And so I just got the report today. I did place it into board docs so you guys can kind of look at it if you're interested. But in the past 12 months, they are showing that we have received 998,000 visits from over 619 unique visitors. So it's basically 5,000 a week. I think if you go, the couple things that aren't in here, which they showed us, well, one thing that is, which I think is kind of fun, is they have like the heat map. It's page 8 of 10. So if you go to page 8, it shows you the heat map where people are coming from. And you can pull that out and show the whole United States too. They did that. We've had visits from people in California, from Minnesota, but obviously, where you see we're showing it being a regional destination, which is what we thought it would be. So we thought it was kind of interesting. The other thing they showed us was where people go before and after. They're heading the coffee place before they come in. Starbucks and the one right by the park are the top two places being visited before they come in. And then as far as fast food, they're going to Chick-fil-A and McDonald's afterwards. They also track restaurants, and unfortunately they're going to Forest Park, to the Lakeside Cafe. They're going to Texas Roadhouse in Kirkwood. So maybe if we do at some point get the redevelopment, have a nicer restaurant, maybe that will drive people there. But it's interesting data, and so more than anything else, since I saw it, I just thought I'd pass it along. Excuse me. The YMCA, we talked about this last couple of months. We did talk to them. They were interested in becoming an affiliated user, as we talked about. So they've gone through the process. We've billed them, and they'll be paying us. If they haven't already they'll be paying us soon. So it worked out really well. I'm sorry we didn't figure that right away. FEMA, if you don't remember, August 8th was our deadline. We are not done with everything in FEMA, and so I did reach out to them and request an additional 6 months. They said that shouldn't be a problem. Then they had to run off to another state emergency down south. I forgot exactly where. So, I'm still waiting for the official letter, but every time I reach out to them, like, hey, Jeff, don't worry about it. It's good. You guys are ready to go. And so they will, everything's been turned in. We're just waiting for the official notification. The next is the Missouri Department of Conservation Community Forest Grant. Our urban forester applied for and received a Conservation Forestry Community Grant. And what he wanted to focus on, we've gotten this before. We've done some things like the natural areas in Memorial Park, that was a community forestry grant. All the new trees along Russell was a community forestry grant. And this year, our urban forester wanted to look at sidewalk conflicts. And so what he did was put together, with the help of Dan and Eric and Public Works, a list of 34 sidewalk slabs surrounding 6 trees. So what it does is Public Works will come out and remove the slabs. And then once slab removed, a contractor will come in and with a high pressure air spade and vacuum will get the current soil away. The forester will do any trimming or pruning that has to be done with the roots. And then we'll come back with structural soil afterwards. And then the Public Works Department will pour the new sidewalk. So the structural soil gives both the sidewalk and the roots a way to grow, a place to go and a place to grow and expand. So that hopefully will mean that we don't have to, we'll minimize frequent repairs and extend the life of the sidewalk and the tree as well. So the grant covers 75% of the total cost, and our 25% is the staff labor to remove the slabs, and then the equipment costs, which again, we already bore anyway, and then the cost of concrete. So it's minimal to us. We'll be starting that here in shortly. You'll actually see something in social media in the next week or two, but we wanted to make sure you guys knew about it first. So,
Could I ask where the streets are, or where the?
yes, you can, and I'll email those to you.
Okay, great.
I realized that they're in my desk.
6 streets.
6 trees. Yep, 34 total slabs. So there's like 4 or 5 around each one. So the amphitheater, I know that was a topic of conversation when I was on vacation. It is a rentable space since we opened, and we have it in the information. It has been rented a couple of times. One was for the wedding. The wedding then it got a little bit too big, and they decided to back out, so they didn't rent it. We have partnered with different organizations as well. The library's had a few events out there. There's things like that. So the real question I think that we heard is maybe working on specific reservation guidelines for future events. This was kind of a curveball that we hadn't seen before. So I've reached out to a couple apartments, Chesterfield, Ellisville, Kirkwood, O'Fallon, those places that have those things, and see if I could maybe refine some policies and procedures for renting the amphitheater. So if this happens again, we have a better thing. My first thought when it happened was going past 10 o'clock, because we don't run any real program past 10 o'clock. So I thought that was kind of the outlier to begin with. And then once we heard the usage, we obviously went to a larger question. And then finally is Brentwood Days. We got a call from the Carnival Ride Company. They were actually under the impression that they could sell wristbands during the event. They had lots of reasons. I didn't bore you with all of them, and some were good, some were bad, don't get me wrong. But I think they talked about the biggest thing is that it being what they consider a revenue-producing event, it's a way for them to earn more revenue, which then means we pay less as we go out, and hopefully even actually make some money. Secondarily, they also think that we're going to have a lot of really unhappy people if they come down and they have to pay $1 a ticket. What they're recommending is selling a wristband on Friday for $25, which is still more than what we charge, and for $45 on Saturday. I'm actually okay with that. It also helps kind of the narrative out there that we are really high when we can say, hey, the Carnival Ride Company will be selling them on the weekends. Here's their cost. Come beforehand, and you can get the resident wristbands cheaper.
What are we paying? And I already paid it, but I don't
It's
remember.
20 for 1 day or 35 for 2 days.
So this would be basically half price.
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed it too, like if you just were coming Friday and you hadn't gone early to get your wristband, you're like, well, it's only $5 more than I would have paid, and my kids are here, and I'm gonna, there's an ability to buy the wristband, and we don't have to do the tickets, so it seems like a good solution. So will they sell tickets at all, or only?
No, they'll continue to sell tickets.
Tickets and wristbands?
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
So it'll be their personnel that are selling the wristbands?
Correct.
How do we get visibility in their total revenue? Because, right, we have to pay them if they don't hit a level.
Correct. We will go through our books every night, because we'll sit down with their company. They'll show me their profits and everything. So that's how. And then Saturday we'll do the same thing, and then we'll reconfirm during the week next week and finalize everything.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. All right, planning and development?
Whitney is not here this evening. Oh, she is? Oh, okay.
Thought I saw her.
Okay.
I've been advised by committee members that we should circle back real quick with Eric on the hockey night thing. So just for awareness, I would say that the committee is in fact-finding mission right now, trying to figure out what happened. That was kind of my questions. We are having conversations about it for a variety of legal reasons. We need to have those in closed session. I don't want to leave you hanging too much, but I will say we hear your concerns, and we're talking about it. So. But you're welcome to stay and hear awesome stuff.
Well, that all sounds really good. We didn't want to be rude. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. Included in the packet are the monthly reports for July. For the month of July, there were 392 new building permits and 880 inspections. Code enforcement had 40 new cases started and 60 inspections. I was able to do a calculation from the beginning of the year to the end of July. There were a total of 1,174 building permits issued and 3,371 inspections of residential and commercial building projects. This represents a 45% increase over the same time period in 2023. There was also a total of 577 occupancy permits and performed over 1,800 inspections for those. That represents a 20% increase in occupancy permits and 61% increase in the occupancy inspections. And code enforcement cases were 277 cases and 653 inspection, and this is a 13.5% increase over last year. Just wanted to provide an update on the pathway between 6 Yorkshire Lane and West Swan Circle. As I indicated in the June 11th, the property owner is not interested in providing a walkway. They have decided to just remove the tie wall that's in disrepair and will regrade the site and do landscaping at the top. The Planning and Zoning Commission is scheduled to meet on September.
I'll just interject. They seem to have done that, and
Oh,
they've put sod down. It looks,
Okay.
it actually looks pretty nice, and they have an area where it looks like they're going to maybe put planting, but I don't know. So,
At the top, they were going to do some planting, yeah.
So I
But
guess that
it-
issue's over.
so the issue is over, and I was told they were going to put a fence through there, and it does not appear that they're going to do that. So those of us who sneak down through the on the hill that's a little bit too steep can still do that.
The Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, September 11th, and we have a continued discussion on the facade and comprehensive sign plan for the Goodwill store and 9110 Manchester. The Architectural Review Board is Thursday, September 19th, and we have 3 items on that agenda. And the Board of Adjustment is Thursday, September 26th, and we actually have 5 items on that agenda. We had an item that came in yesterday. So there will be those 5 items. And, I'm sorry, I also met recently with the H3 Studio. They are a little bit behind. They had a computer system meltdown that put them a few weeks behind. They lost a lot of information, but they are getting back on track. We will be looking to schedule stakeholders meetings to look at recommendations or get a guidance from stakeholders on both commercial and residentials by the end of September.
Great, thanks, Whitney. Any questions from anybody? Excellent, thank you. All right, SUSCOM.
Couple quick things from SESCOM. The first is Leave the Leaves. Much like NOMO April Leaves the Leaves is another sort of program that's championed by the USDA and the Missouri Department of Conservation. It encourages pro homeowners to leave their fallen leaves on the yard instead of raking, because it does help suppress weeds, fertilize the soils, things break down, also creates habitat for animals in the winter, lizards, birds, turtles, and frogs, all those other types of things. And so it is something that the Sustainability Commission unanimously recommended that the city encourage running this program with our residents. We wouldn't have to do a ordinance like we did for NOMO, because there's nothing really in the ordinance for that, unless Whitney is going to correct me, because I probably should make sure. Providing yard signs for those who are interested, so they kind of like NOMO April, which we can do pretty easily, and then bring this to Public Works for your guys' approval. So if you guys are okay with it, it's more just a program that we'll run through Parks and Recreation, trying to encourage people to do this.
Yeah, and I'll say I'm in favor of this. I never kind of knew this was a thing, and I did it last year, and it worked in my backyard, and it saves the city money. It's less leaves we have to pick up.
Sounds great to me.
Great. Well, we'll start running that, or we'll start promoting. The second is Ripple Glass. So we had a representative from Ripple Glass Recycling. Rick, I'm going to fumble over that all night. Ripple Glass is a recycling company from Kansas City that has recently expanded in the St. Louis market. They host, Webster Grow has been hosting a container bin by their Public Works facility on Waymire, so right near the border. And basically what it is instead of putting glass in a single stream, it's basically bringing your glass to this bin, they go and they maintain the bin. When it gets full, they'll come out and they'll dump it and bring back a new bin. And so ultimately, it's a way to kind of recycle specifically glass and get that out of your single stream. So again, same as Sustainability Commission recommending doing this. The question was, what do we do with this? So after that meeting, I met with representatives and kind of walked him around a number of places throughout the city. His kind of preferred locations in order was Schnucks. Obviously, being next to a grocery store when you're coming in and out to buy groceries is kind of a reminder. He also understands we don't have ownership of that. We'd have to talk to the management group for approval if that's what they wanted to do. The Promenade at Total Wine & More, because again, the second most place you get glass, I guess, is by a liquor store. So they like that. Again, we'd have to talk to the Promenade, and really it's the location might be challenging because there's not a whole lot of room around that side lot is what we were talking, and that parking lot obviously is pretty busy to begin with. The first city location was the Recreation Complex, which obviously makes sense because we do have a decently large-sized parking lot. It's right off Manchester Road and Brentwood and Manchester right at that corner, so it's easy to get to, visible, easy to get the bin in and out. And then we looked at the current Public Works garage. We could put it there until we moved. Again, it's visible. It's right off Manchester, so it's easy to get into and out. We did look at behind Target and Promenade, like where the quick chargers are. He said that he'd like the other locations better, primarily for visibility. And then we did look at the new Public Works Park Maintenance Garage because, again, until we do something with it, it's a location. And that's their least favorite just because of the location. Now, I think, as he said in our meeting, people will find the place. So now he wants visibility. It helps him with his product and his company. But if you look at where it is in Webster, it is in a little neighborhood behind everywhere. It's it's off Brentwood Boulevard in that park back there, right around there. So we can go anywhere. The Sustainability Commission recommended it. I'm okay. If we have to put it in the recreation complex, I think we'd be able to find room. I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, Nancy?
So I think it's a good idea, and I think like the leaf thing, it has the potential to save the city a little bit of money because it's glass not going, that we're not recycling. But I guess I kind of have a concern about a bin like at Schnucks or in the front of the rec center. Like, is that even allowed in our, I'm seeing a shake of Whitney's head. Like, that just doesn't seem like a good thing to promote just this one particular company.
Yes, trash is supposed to be sited further out of view as much as possible and behind the building. So we would have to look at that as part of zoning if it does proceed.
So,
And it should be within an enclosure too, as well.
But when you said the rec center, are you talking about where the trucks would come in usually for like the shredding event on that lot back there
yeah, I was
behind?
saying that back lot because it's kind of back behind the building to the side. I mean, technically to the side of the building.
Yeah.
We did look at the alleyway where our dumpster is now. Unfortunately, that is not wide enough to have that and our two dumpsters there.
I went and looked at the Webster one. It's kind of like right in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
No fence around it or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that it could be obviously good for a number of reasons. One being we collect, I'm sure, a lot of glass in our single sort, and it gets heavy and costs the city and the taxpayers. So that could work. I don't like the idea of it being overly visible from thoroughfares. I mean, it's gaudy for a reason, which I get. But I also don't think we need to have that like super visible from our main streets.
I mean, again, when I took him around, just because it's it's not as popular as the other one. I mean, we could look at and say, hey, look, we really want it at the new Public Works garage. It's in industrial court. As he even said, for the Webster one, people will find it if they want to find it. He does like the convenience of our places, because if you're going to the store, if you're going to the rec center, oh yeah, I have a class to take. It's somewhere else, you're making a trip specifically for that.
But you don't even, we don't know if the property managers of those stores would even
Yeah,
allow
that is
it.
correct. But I'm talking, but I mean, I don't, if it's the Public Works Committee direction to go to them and say, hey, well, we want to do it, but we want to do it at the new building in Hanley Industrial, they'll say either yes or no. So I'm happy to host it at the rec center. I would want to host it in the back corner of that side parking lot.
So why don't we direct, you know, is it worth even having the conversation with those? I have concerns about the parking lot already being overloaded and putting this in. And I mean, maybe we explore the rec center location and any kind of code things that we need to do or what that would look like and see, you know, kind of flesh that out a little bit and see if it works.
Yeah, Whitney and I can talk and come give you guys an update next month.
Okay.
I actually, since we're still talking about it, did they have any sound dampening or anything like that? So when people, just because the rec center, we have the houses that are just behind the rec center that already are sensitive to light pollution and noise, you know, because they're right against commercial. Sounds like, to me, there would be a lot of noise when people are dumping their bins into this.
I don't know if they specifically have dampening. I mean, it's a big purple bin. As you said, the Webster one is in a residential neighborhood, so I could reach out to Webster, see if they've got any complaints
Yeah.
about that.
It'd just be something I would want to be cautious of if we're putting it near residential. Right. Correct.
Points. When I went, I actually, because my wife is fancy, I had a lot of champagne bottles that I was throwing in there, and it looked like it had just been emptied, and I mean, you could hear it kind of shatter. But I mean, I was also kind of like right there, so I don't know how loud it was standing a couple feet away. All right, we'll move into the consent agenda. All we have are the meeting minutes from July.
Motion to approve consent.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, go in the old business, 8829 Russell.
This item was mentioned earlier. If you recall, this is the home on the northeast corner of Russell and Collier. So whenever the contractor put in a shared use path going to the north of that shared use path, there's a certain segment which is in your packet that they weren't able to achieve the 3-to-1 slope like it shows in the drawings. So to achieve a 3-to-1, the engineers came up with a curb wall, which is similar to the curb wall that's to the east of that property. So it's about 18 inches tall, but only 6 inches sticks up at the surface. And then from the back of that concrete curb, you would, slope, do your grading on your soil and get that 3-to-1 slope. But it's different than the plan, so for Gershenson to do that particular grading and the concrete work, it's a little over $7,100. So it'd be a change order to the contract if we wanted to entertain doing this. They're still under contract, they're still working, for the next few months. But again, it would require a change order and take that to the board with other change orders that we have, like in the past.
I guess, I mean, we need to install it, obviously, to get to the 3-to-1. I'm curious why they wouldn't have some sort of a cost share to do this, because they couldn't achieve what was designed. Why wouldn't?
The way it was explained to us was that the survey shots, because you didn't take a huge amount of them, the computer program is like running elevations from other elevations, which when you really do check it, it's off by a few inches, which makes a big difference when you're talking a short horizontal distance, trying to get that 3-to-1. And it's not wildly off on the west portion of the property closer to Collier. It's as you get closer to that driveway, you could be as high as 2 feet off for your 3-to-1.
Yeah, I'm curious if we've asked them, again, that it seems like an oversight on their part and not designing it correctly, or designing it and then not designing it for a certain elevation that wasn't there. and then couldn't achieve what we agreed on. And so how are we on the hook for spending the money? It's not significant money, you know, but how is it that we're on the hook for spending this?
We can ask, TWM is the designer that did it, so, you know, Gershenson will do whatever they need to do.
I mean, it needs to be built, but I just don't understand why the city needs to pay for it.
I share that. I mean, it says does not conform to the specifications. That's it.
To me, it's the contractor that, if they didn't take the right elevation points or they didn't plan it the right way, then they have a contingency that could come out of theirs. Okay. From what we've been told all along, it's, if they can't build what they designed, then we have to do something else. Again, they designed it and they can't build it. So in order to meet the specifications that we signed off on, this has to be built to bring that grade up. I would at least ask the question of in legal opinion of, again, why would that be something that we're on the hook for?
What's the urgency of proving this, though? I mean, they're going to be there for a couple more months.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be, you know, for the next board meeting or anything, because we have other change orders that are quantity balances, you know, where you put in more of asphalt or less of rock. So this would be rolled into that. It's just, what do we want to do? Do we even want to put in a wall? That was the main reason for bringing it. Sounds like we definitely want the wall, but then there's the cost share. I'll go back to the engineers. It's like, well, can you absorb the whole thing? You know, start the negotiation there, and then we'll discuss with the city attorney.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear that we need the wall.
Right.
The wall needs to be built. So if that direction is something you need, then I'd say that, unless we need a motion. It's the expense that I think that's in question. And again, it's not a tremendous amount. I don't understand why the contractor wouldn't have said, look, we didn't take the right measurements, or, you know, when we thought we could build it to meet the specs and we couldn't. So if it were my house and I paid a contractor to come up with a design for doing something and they couldn't meet that design, then it would be on them.
Okay, is that clear direction? Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move into the regional hazard mitigation plan. Whitney or Eric? Oh, okay.
The East-West Gateway Council of Government sent this questionnaire along with a sample resolution, but basically they've got the hazard mitigation plan for 2025 through 2030. For us to be eligible for that grant funding, each jurisdiction or municipality needs to complete the attached questionnaire as part of that participation, and then pass a resolution adopting the plan. So I know we included the questionnaire, so it discusses flooding, tornadoes, earthquakes, levee breaches, all kinds of things. Some of them don't pertain to us, but some do. So staff met, we put together the answers, and we were ready with it. It's prepared for the September 3rd board meeting. I know we have to submit the questionnaire by the 12th of September, but the resolution is actually September of 2025. So you have time on it, but I know we're, you know, just actually ready to go with it now, but it does require a motion and approval to take to the full board.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution, or to forward resolution 1518 to the Board of Aldermen to adopt the 2025 to 2030 St. Louis Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Second that.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, disopposed? Nay? All right, thanks, Dan. Now, City Hall.
Me again. So I know everyone's aware that the library is moving out of City Hall, you know, over where it used to be the Retina Institute on Brentwood Boulevard. And we were discussing what happens with the space when they leave in 2026. So you have roughly 7,000 square feet of space there. Some of the thoughts were that some of the staff on this floor and on other areas could possibly move in there, but what is the highest and best use of the property? So we wanted to enter into a task order with Navigate to do similarly what they did with police and administration for this campus, but on a limited scale and scope of just the library. It could be that finance, IT, planning and development, those folks have there's way more square area down there than what they currently have in City Hall. So there could be areas to move people into and then still have room left for growth. So rather than leave it vacant when they leave, you just have a giant warehouse, basically.
So my issue with this is that, to your point, the highest and best use, this makes the assumption that that is relocating staff down there. And I think, we had a workshop about a lot of things in this area, and we put everything kind of on pause because we were waiting to see what was going to happen with the library. I think we should make a request to the mayor that we have another workshop at some point, strategic planning of what do we want to do? Because I've heard ideas from all kinds of different stuff that we could do down there. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that we need more space because we just redid City Hall just a couple years ago for millions.
Right.
Correct. Correct.
I agree.
I concur.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Oh, shoot. Site 65.
So we're obviously seeking approval to choose a contractor for Site 65. As you guys know, we need to go in and kind of, right now it's got poor establishment and a lot of rock and clear signs of erosion. I think we're all aware of that. And so Jacob's put together a task order of what needs to be done, including taking all that rock out of that area, relocating it to the creek edge, applying fill and topsoil, seed, the core mat, fabric, and then maintaining that seeded area. They estimate that the first 4 steps should be done in 10 work days or less, at which time the Sycamore Trail might need to be closed. We need it once we hire a contractor, we'll discuss all that. We got the quotes from Gershon and Blocker, are still on contract for Brentwood Bound, and Castle, who's our own on-call emergency construction company. And Gershon was the cheapest at $150,000. Since they're still under contract, we can make this a change order, and we could take that to the Board of Aldermen on Tuesday. And then we can get them on board to start working and get this done in the fall, which is really the time that you want to do it anyway. So our recommendation is to approve a change order with Kirshenson to repair the work on Site 65.
And so just so I'm clear, the relocate the rock, is that the rock that was put in for preventing the path from eroding? Is that what we're talking about?
No, it's the rock that's currently on site that was kind of left. Basically, and I know there's been some vegetation growing in right now, but underneath that vegetation is a whole bunch of rock.
Okay.
It's moving that rock.
Okay, so it's not removing anything that has been done for stabilization purposes of the bank. So it'd be moving creek rock back to the creek edge, and then is it bringing it up to the way it was designed originally?
Yes.
And okay, so it would come back up almost to where the top edge of the stabilization rock that was put in, it would come up a little bit higher than it does now.
Might not come all the way up to the top of that rock. I'd have to look at the specifications again, but it comes pretty close. The
Okay.
idea is to kind of bring it back to design intent.
Okay. And then, there were also some water pipes and I guess fittings that were damaged in that. Are those are now underneath, are those just been eliminated?
Yeah, we have capped those at this time, and talking to staff, we're working around it. If we ever need those back, we could look at it that time, but that is not part of this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Nancy.
And I just want to clarify the size or exactly where Site 65 is. So I know it's the part that still doesn't look like it has grass. Is it also the part a little to the east that has grown in, even though there's not the coir mat and that underneath? Is that part of 65?
So 65 is, as you come around, if you go down the Sycamore Trail.
Well, it's where the riffraff is.
Yeah, it's basically from the
Riprap,
riprap
yeah.
that was put next to the trail,
Uh-huh.
basically out toward the creek.
Okay, so
It's not around the bend on the other side that is basically become a rock, that natural rock bar that we've decided to kind of leave in
no,
place
not that.
right
I'm going east on the Sycamore Trail. So if you keep walking east on the Sycamore Trail, I thought there was, there's some that filled in that I thought didn't have coir mat on the bottom, and I'm wondering if that's part of Site 65.
It's, if you think about where the natural rock bar is and all the way down to the wetland, the Fox wetland, it's about 50 to 60% of the west portion of that whole area.
Okay, great.
I'm glad I could explain that. That made sense.
Yeah, that made sense. That's good. Yeah.
Perfect.
So almost to where the Public Works access is
That's another great
to,
landmark.
to
Correct.
to the west.
Correct.
Okay.
It is almost Public Works west.
West, okay.
Yep, that access road there.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because I think there is some, natural establishment that's been happening, which is great.
There has been some vegetation, which is great, but it's
But-
still low and we're
Right.
still concerned and
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess you need a motion to go with, sorry, my
Gershon,
Gershenson,
yes, please.
is that right? Gershenson Construction, and forward that, change order to forward it on to the board for approval.
second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone disopposed? Okay. Final citizen comment? Anyone online or anything? Okay, can I get a motion to go into closed session per legal RSMO 610021 and adjourn from there?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great.